I urge you to address this larger picture. Who better than you to tell us about the first principles of RTI and whether political parties do need to come under RTI or not?
Well, I think there are piles of people who are better than I. I think the people I meet across the country are miles better than I to answer this in a much more authentic manner. But anyway, since I'm the last speaker, and the last speaker always fills in the blanks, and it's a luxury because you don't have to go through every fact, but it's also a challenge because you have to make sure that you don't restate the case. But let me first at least begin by restating my thanks to the Times of India group for starting this, but please don't let go now. I think there's a long agenda and you must continue. And let me also thank the WASP, but I disagree with Vajahat. If you disregard the WASP, then you get a hive behind you. So the single WASP has to be dealt with. And that's why the amendment to the RTI is such an important thing, because it's an indication of the political mind, and therefore it has to be addressed. And हमारे यहाँ भी कहते हैं और अंग्रेजी में भी कहते हैं, stitch in time saves nine. हमारे लिए कहते हैं कि छोटी सी बात जल्दी से निपट जाती है, बड़ी हो जाती है तो रोकना बहुत मुश्किल होता है. We are only 4 very, very small, maybe significant or insignificant representatives of India today. We have really, in fact, 10% of India using the right to information, and 10% of 1.2 billion is a very big number. So let's not think of us ourselves in small numbers. We need to work more, but numbers and numbers of people. I've been to Shillong, to Manipur. I've got reports from Lahul and Spiti, from Punjab, which is our westernmost place, but Rajasthan, where they go to Tamil Nadu, where it is an atomic plant that's being established and people are protesting against it in Kudankulam, or whether it's POSCO, or whether it's rations, whether it's the inefficiency of the police, whether it's accessing information about the army, whether it's accessing information about the Prime Minister's office, whether it's accessing information about a range of areas, whether it's Doctors Without Borders or Engineers Without Borders. I'm really amazed at the use of the RTI. It's gone far beyond my imagination. And Subhash Agrawal, who's a citizen of this city, he's done extraordinary things with the RTI. And there is one person in a small town called Devgarh, because I live in Rajasthan, I don't live here. I've come from Rajasthan, I'll go back to Rajasthan. And this man is a bartan wala. He sells utensils. And he files, his target is 1 RTI a day. So 365 RTIs, many of them are just looking at newspapers and finding out where RTI can be used for social justice, for equality, for access, for fighting poverty, and they're not his cases. But he files applications. When I meet him, I'm really humbled. So I really think it's been one of the most humbling experiences. But I'll go back to Sushila quickly. In 1996, the National Campaign for People's Right to Information had one of its first big press conferences. Justice P.V. Sawant, who was then chairperson of the Press Council, was chairing the meeting. He had called the meeting to look at the first major draft of the Act, which had been made by the Press Council of India. So the press is intrinsically involved in the Act. There was Mr. V.P. Singh, Mr. I.K. Gujral, ex-Prime Ministers. There were members of political parties present in that press conference. There were editors of newspapers. There were big people like Ajit Bhattacharjee, Pravas Joshi, Kuldeep Nair, Nikhil Chakravarti, big names in journalism, everyone there. And in that meeting, Sushila was also there. Sushila's passed her 4th class. She is, well, about 15 years younger than I am. So she is now middle-aged, well into middle-age, but then she was much younger. And then the press said to her, may I speak in Hindi? Okay. Press said, तुम यहाँ क्या कर रही हो? तुम पढ़ी लिखी नहीं हो और यहाँ की क्या कर रही हो? तुम्हें क्या समझ है सूचना के अधिकार के बारे में? She stood up and said, मैं अपने बेटे को 10 रुपया देकर बाजार बेचती हूँ और वो वापस आता है तो मैं उससे हिसाब देती हूँ। ये सरकार मेरे नाम पर अरबों खरबों रुपए खर्च करती है, मैं हिसाब नहीं लूंगी क्या? ये हमारा पैसा, ये हमारा हिसाब. Extraordinary. In those 4 words, Sushila encapsulated the spirit of Indian democracy, the spirit of the RTI, the spirit of a transparent and accountable government and the spirit of justice and of truth. She did not say, I want to know how much money you have spent in your son's wedding. She said, I want to know how much money you spent in my name. Maybe with the permission of the chair or the convener, have the slogan now? I'll say, Hamara Paisa, and you will say, Hamara Hisab, loudly. Hamara Paisa! Or just say, Hamara Paisa! This slogan now is in every Indian language all over the country. Wherever we go, people have made it in Bengali, in Tamil, in Telugu, in Kashmiri, in Punjabi, in Gujarati, in Marathi, in Odia. Every single language you can shout the slogan now. That itself shows how widely this has been spread, and this whole issue of a political party saying it will not be under the Act and saying it can be non-transparent, but the rest of the country and its functions must be, did not need educating the people at all. It's the victory of the RTI movement in the last so many years that people now understand the link between the political establishment and governance and their welfare. They also understand that they must play a role in all this, that it is their role of the small RTI application which makes such a fundamental difference to the functioning of Indian democracy. So everyone, as rightly put by the speakers, when they go and file the RTI, represent the Indian Auditing Service, the Indian Administrative Service, the Indian Police Service, the politician, the MLA, the MP. They also are journalists. They are anything, any establishment that takes upon itself the right to investigate and find out where the truth lies. So I think the biggest credit to the RTI is it made us understand democracy. If RTI had not been there, we would have been struggling with people to tell them why it was important that political parties need to be transparent. Today, it is in the ambit of common understanding that political parties need to be transparent. And in this campaign, just as in the process of the law was passed, this particular law was passed by UPA 1, which made a promise in its manifesto, which then gave something called the National Common Minimum Program, made a commitment in that, and the first UPA was also supported by the left from outside. So all these political parties were forced into honoring their commitments. They were, part of them were willing to honor the commitments, and without political will, there would have been no RTI. The question is, where has that will disappeared? And if it has disappeared, it's our responsibility to bring it back and to tell them the people who gave the act cannot go back on it. And I'm very glad to say that though this campaign was spearheaded by public opinion, spearheaded by campaigns, spearheaded by social media, we got more than 160 lakh signatures to the Prime Minister's office. But it's not only that. We got people to tweet Parliament on the day that Parliament was sitting on it. But it's not merely that. There were hundreds of meetings across India, people getting together and giving applications to their SDMs, their tehsildars, their collectors, their chief secretaries saying they do not want amendments, going protesting against the local, outside the local MP's office, the local MLA's establishment, saying that there should be no amendments. So it was felt that it was the pulse of the people, but nevertheless that there was a response from Parliament, at least so much as it sent it to the Standing Committee, is a small victory. It's not the end, but it's a small victory. And let me tell you, on the day that Parliament met to discuss this, we'd been lobbying all night, and my younger friends hadn't slept at all, because they were organizing the tweets and the social media messages and all that, exhausted. So when the call came from a member of Parliament to me that day, I took it and I said, well, he's going to say it's been passed. And he said, it has not been passed, congratulations. And the yell I let out must have got hundreds of people around saying, what's happened to you? I said, oh, we won our first battle, but not the war. The war is yet to be won. But the first battle was won. It was won with political parties, individuals supporting us in Parliament. Also the Parliament, the party in power taking the decision to send it to Parliament. God knows what pushed it. But something did push it to the Standing Committee. If it hadn't gone to the Standing Committee, we would be now fighting against a fait accompli. But today we have something we can still fight for. We have still got time, and all of you, each one of you in this room, must make sure that you are responsible for 1,000 messages reaching parliamentarians, which Times of India can organize, which NCPRI may be able to organize through change.org or this, that, dot something else, I don't know what you do. But whatever it may be, to tell them that the standing committee is meeting, but it cannot lead to the right to information, the purview of the right to information not being applied on political parties. You've heard all the legal arguments and excellent arguments from friends on the stage. But I want to give you and communicate with you and share with you the campaigns that we must conduct. Because just understanding that there is a legality doesn't end the battle. It's just the beginning of the battle, and then we have to continue with it. So I want a commitment from all of you that each one of you here will take it forward. Times of India will, of course. But apart from Times of India, we will all take it forward, and it should be an important thing. We must really all also take a commitment that we will file at least one RTI a month on a public cause.